Well, last time I have asked why in the fast food company the video was talking on the entrance level wage was minimum wage, not a wage higher than the minimum wage. Especially, I mean that higher wage might attract the most productive entrance level fast food workers. That could be two different explanations actually. Using, of course, the neoclassical model. Not this model is also neoclassical. We are not basically outside of neoclassical boundaries. Um, well, first explanation could be maybe the productivity level of the fast food workers is already very low. So I mean the equilibrium is actually below the minimum wage. Of course, marginal productivity should still be high enough, since I mean, if you hire 10 workers at minimum wage, that means your cost should still be lower than your benefit. So you might still look for highest productive workers, the workers with relatively high productivity. So that explanation is actually not that much matching with the core model. Uh, Except maybe you might say that because of this, because at the minimum wage level there is so much unemployment. I mean, attracting the workers, including, is easier, and you can easily also take from this unemployed labor force the people with relatively high productivity. So that could be an explanation. That could be an explanation. So attracting more productive workers is not difficult when you have high unemployment because you choose from this large unemployed group, the ones with high productivity, maybe. So you don't want even higher productive workers from the pool of employed workers in that case. Of course, outside of the neoclassical explanation, you might also say the productivity differences of the workers might be too small. That might be an explanation. Within this model, however, you might have another explanation, which might be the fast food companies might have monopsony power on the workers. And if that's the case, basically, if minimum wage is set higher than the wage level at the optimum employment level, in that case, you pay your entrance level workers the minimum wage, not a higher wage level, basically. And well, again, this model assumes that the productivity level of all workers is the same, and actually, I mean, the competition that people are talking about is not here, but you might say that also, that maybe, again, the productivity differences of the workers might be not that high. And also, monopsony power might give you leverage to the workers also that are relatively more productive in your workforce. So maybe competition is not that much increasing the wages in case of at least the bottom half of the labor market where you are employing low wage workers. So now let's discuss the one study which brought this model, which at first glance looks as a model which is not relevant. Of course, you might say we have a competitive market for the labor. It is easily well, at least arguable that some markets, some goods markets are monopolies, but thinking that labor market itself is a monopsony is not, at first glance, not that much a persuasive argument. But interestingly, this study has basically brought this possibility into the light and into the attention of the labor economists. Not other economists. Well, all economists know other fields to some extent, but this possibility is not part of the known part of the labor economics for other economists. But at least labor economists start to consider this possibility after this study. So the study is done by Card and Kruger, these guys, and its setting is interesting. It is called a setting. The setting is called a case of natural experiment. Natural experiment is a case where, usually when you make an experiment in lab, artificially you create environment for an experiment, and a typical experiment needs to have two different environments that are essentially the same, except the factor you are testing. In economy, it is not easy. It's not that easy to create two different environments, because now you need whole societies, cities, markets, companies, basically. In a limited number of experiments done in labs by economists are usually considering individuals and their decision-making process, and in some cases limited number of groups. But when you are talking about interaction of millions of people, those experiments are not possible, not that much possible. At least there's no way to create those experiments in the labs. Up to this point, it was not possible. However, and when that's not the case, then all different factors are affecting the variable you are interested in. And when you want to test the effect of another variable on your variable, then now you need to statistically separate the effect of your variable from the effect of other variables, which cannot be done in 100% perfect way. So you use statistical methods, all of them imperfect, but you try to get as certain results as you can with the statistics. But in some cases, by nature, or without interaction or design of individuals, an environment is created where you have two different places where all factors are same except the factor you are testing. If that's the case, those cases are providing the scientists in different fields a possibility of a natural experiment, because nature provides a case where all factors are fixed and just the factor you want to test is varying. So how was this type of a case created by for the Card and Kruger? Well, in the United States, there are certain cities that are called twin cities. Twin city is basically you have a city sometimes separated by a river, sometimes there might be cases where there's even not a river. They are basically integrated cities, but officially part of that city belongs to a different state, part of the city belongs to a different state. And states are independent, which means they have different rules, different legislatures, different parliaments, different courts, and they can set different rules. So part of the city, if you have a twin city and with two different parts belonging to different states, one part of the city usually has a different name and regulated by the state it belongs, and the other part regulated by the state it belongs. So two parts are have different rules, but essentially the cities are integrated, which means people living in one city go to other city to have fun and go back or work in the other city. But of course, as when they vote, they belong to one of those two parts. But essentially, the life in two cities are integrated. There are several number of twin cities. And the one we are talking on were between the states Pennsylvania and New Jersey. In 1992, minimum wage, in the United States, minimum wage, there's a minimum wage set by the federal state, but the states themselves might, if they want, set a minimum wage higher than the federal minimum wage. So in 1992, minimum wage in two states, Pennsylvania and New Jersey, were the same. In 1990, when the year begins, in that year, New Jersey increased the wage to 5.055, while in Pennsylvania the wage remains the same. So you have and when you have a city that is integrated in those between those states, part of it in one state, part of it in other states, the part in the part in Pennsylvania and the part in New Jersey basically have same conditions, same type of businesses, same type of living costs, but in one part you have an increase in minimum wage, and in other part minimum wage is fixed. So everything is same, just minimum wage in one part has increased, so you can test the effect of minimum wage on that part. How can you do that? Of course, if you want to do that, first you need to find a sector where minimum wage matters, and it just matters the unskilled labor force, which is traditionally getting a wage lower than the minimum wage. So they have chosen the fast food workers. The names of the places were actually Neumark and Washer because they are integrated, but they have separate names because they are ruled by different state legislators. And basically, they test what happens to the employment level in both places, because there are other factors that are affecting the employment level in those cities, but all other factors except the minimum wage should work in both towns. In the Pennsylvania town, where basically minimum wage was fixed, there was a decrease in unemployment level. And in New Jersey town, there was an increase. So in the town where minimum wage has increased, there was an increase in employment level. Well, that could be caused by other factors, but if that was caused by other factors, then those factors should also affect the Pennsylvania town. But in Pennsylvania town, where minimum wage was fixed, there is a decrease in employment level. So this research shows, of course, it should be tested again and again in different places. But at least within the premises of the research, you can see that minimum wage might have had a positive effect on employment level. And you cannot explain this with the Keynesian idea that the increase in minimum wage in New Jersey town will affect the demand. That's why the employment has increased, because increase in wage in New Jersey town, minimum wage in New Jersey town, would also affect Pennsylvania town, because the people in New Jersey will go with their newly earned higher money and go to Pennsylvania and buy there also things, since basically the two towns are practically integrated. So minimum wage is having a positive effect at even micro level on employment, or negative effect on unemployment. That's against all conventional wisdom, except the model we have seen. But can we have and well, basically, this people thought this effect, this research could have been an exception. That could be a factor that was not seen, and basically, other type of research were done like this. There were many different states in the United States, so it's easy to do that, and the results are at best mixed. And there are significant number of cases where minimum wage was actually increasing the employment level. So, what can we say? Basically, monopsony market is the main explanation provided by the neoclassical model, and that's why monopsony market was the monopsony model was the model the economists have termed, and that way the term dynamic monopsony become part of the mainstream labor economics studies, and I will talk on that in the next part.